to Oliver Lesson's Horn Concerto, Opus 28, played by Barry Tutwell with the Hong Kong Sinfonietta, conducted by the composer.
我哋頭先聽過嘅3個樂章係
hoping to take off my jacket, but
協奏曲，
it's
為我哋
freezing.
出奏延後嘅係德維爾，演出嘅樂團係倫敦小交響樂團，由盧信親自指揮。
It's 8:30 and time to say good morning to film critic Howard Elias. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm freezing.
Yeah, it's a little bit chilly in the studio.
Yeah, in the studio too. Yeah,
Yes.
going from the cold to the cold.
Okay, so now we have a number of films to get through.
Yeah, it's a busy week. A lot of new films are coming out to Hong Kong because of the awards. And not the awards, but yeah, we have 4 films to talk about today, so I'm going to try to squeeze it all in. The first ones we'll talk about is the big release this week, opening today, called The Disaster Artist, which won a Golden Globe for James Franco the other day. What did he win for? Did he win for director or did he win for actor?
I believe it was actor.
Actor, yeah. Oh, okay. And if you didn't know that this film is, it's a great film. It's a wonderful film about the quote-unquote worst film ever made. Have you seen The Room? The Room is the film that we're talking about here. Have you seen?
I haven't.
It's actually it's going to be opening here on Sunday. It's for limited engagement at a cinema near you. Actually, the cinema in Yamate, but I don't think I'm allowed to say which cinema that is.
Wouldn't it make more sense to see The Room first before seeing The Disaster Artist?
Good question. I actually saw The Disaster Artist first. I had never seen The Room. I saw the Disaster Artist a few weeks ago, and then I saw Room a few days later. There's different camps who will say you need to see one before the other. I don't know. You know, I was, because I hadn't seen The Room, I had only heard about it, I found The Disaster Artist hysterical. And when I saw The Room, I think I liked it more. You know, so whereas if you see it, people have said who've seen it the other way, they've seen The Room first, they say that there are so many jokes in The Disaster Artist that you just wouldn't get unless you've seen The Room. So I don't know which you need to do, but certainly if you haven't seen The Room, check it out because it's an amazing film. It's a very watchable bad film. You know, there's plenty of bad films out there, and God knows I'm going to be talking about one in a few minutes. But not the disaster. No, I'm going to talk about the Halle Berry film. I'm going to talk about which is a bad film.
The Disaster Artist is about the making of this film, The Room.
That's right. It's about a making of The Room. It's just such a bizarre story that if you didn't know it was true, you just wouldn't believe it. It's just an amazing story. It's based on the book of the same name. The book is actually called The Disaster Artist: My Life Inside the Room, the Greatest Bad Movie Ever Made. And it's written by a fellow by the name of Greg Sestero. Greg and the fellow who made The Room, his name is Tommy Wiseau. They are best friends. They met in an acting class in San Francisco in, I think, 1999 or maybe 1998. I can't remember. And Greg was so enraptured with Tommy's off-the-wall performance that he said, I need to learn from this man. He just thought this guy was amazing. Tommy was everything that Greg wasn't acting wise. And he said, I got to learn from this guy. So they became immediate friends and decided to move down to LA to break into Hollywood. And because neither of them is a very good actor, and Tommy's just a god-awful actor, they weren't getting jobs. And Greg said, why don't we make our own film? And Tommy said, okay, let's make our own film. And Tommy wrote a screenplay. Apparently it was 500 pages long. And, you know, the rule for screenplays is it's basically 1 page of text equals 1 minute of film. So you can imagine a 500-minute long movie. So thankfully it got edited down to something reasonable. And what Greg didn't realize, or maybe he sort of had an inkling, is Tommy is very wealthy. We don't know, to this day, we don't know where Tommy's wealth came from. But Tommy paid for the movie himself, $6 million US. You know, this is in 2003 that he paid for it. And so this film, The Disaster Artist, is all about them meeting and all about Tommy and Greg making this movie. and there's scenes in The Disaster Artist where they've recreated scenes from The Room. And okay, you're watching it, you're laughing, but because you just cannot believe how bad this is. You can't believe that a movie is this bad. But the best part of The Disaster Artist is at the very end, they show the real film. They show The Room. They show clips from The Room side by side with clips from the recreated The Room, and they are identical. They just nailed the accents, they nailed the looks, they nailed, the positioning. Everything is just, and it's spot on. And at that point, you're really just killing yourself laughing that such a movie was made. But I have to say, after seeing The Room, it's like watching a train wreck. That you're just so curious. You have to keep watching it, and you do. You watch the whole movie. It's about an hour and a half long. At no point did I ever think of walking out and saying this is just so bad I can't watch it anymore. You just have to keep watching it. So it's absolutely amazing. Now, at that time, when the movie was released in 2003, Tommy bought a billboard on, I think, the Highland Road in Hollywood. And the billboard was up for something like 5 years promoting the movie. But apparently the movie, in its initial run, only made $1,800. So it cost him $6 million and it only made $1,800. But since that time, that movie has become a cult classic. It plays at film festivals all over the world, and Tommy goes to these festivals as well. And it plays in college campuses everywhere. I don't know how I missed it. I already graduated by 2003. That's how I missed it. And since that time, Tommy has made back his money. The film has made money. So not that he needed it. So, and quite funny, and this comes in the movie, Tommy has this very bizarre accent, and people say, "Where are you from?" And he says, "Louisiana and New Orleans," and you just know he's not. And to this day, you don't know. Nobody knows where he's from. He's never said. Although a few weeks ago on Jimmy Kimmel, with James Franco sitting right next to him, he did say he was from Europe, or he was born in Europe, and he lived in Louisiana. And you can see James Franco's face. This is the first time he had ever heard Tommy say this. But he's never said where exactly he's from and where his money comes from. My guess is his father. My guess is that his father was some eccentric count in Transylvania. And he's a trust fund baby, but who knows? We'll never know. Or maybe we will know. I don't know. So I absolutely love this film. The Disaster Artist I loved. The Room, you don't love it. You laugh at it, but you don't love it. And it stars all of Franco's. First, it stars Franco's brother Dave Franco, who plays Greg. It's produced by Seth Rogen, who also appears in the film. Dave Franco's wife Alison Brie is in the film. Ari Grainer from Wiener Dog. It's all their friends.
There's so many celebrity cameos.
There's a lot of celebrity cameos.
Sharon
Stone, Baba Odenkirk, Melanie Griffith, Zac Efron, Judd Apatow.
Everyone.
Yeah, these are all their friends. I mean, it must have been a riot to make this film. But the best cameo belongs to Bryan Cranston, who plays himself. He plays himself in the a la Malcolm in the Middle days, so back from 2003. He plays a younger version of himself. Apparently, this never happened, but again, James Franco and Bryan Cranston are friends, so he said something similar happened. So he said, "Okay, let's cast Bryan Cranston in this role." But that was quite amusing. So The Disaster Artist opens today. The Room opens on Sunday. I say check them both out because it's well worth it. Well worth it.
A film about chasing your dreams.
Yeah, it's a love letter.
Lots of passion and dedication.
Yeah, it's a love letter to somebody who really had a lot of passion and wanted to make movies. Yeah, and that's to me that's why I love the film. Yeah.
And now you don't like this one, Kidnap?
Yeah, now we're going to talk about a bad film that's not worth watching.
With Halle Berry.
With Halle Berry.
Oh,
I'd like to feel sorry for her because, look, she won an Oscar way back in 2002. But since that time, she's made one mediocre movie after another. And, I was doing some research on her. And when she did Catwoman in 2004, she got paid $14 million. The film didn't break even. I don't think she makes $14 million today. certainly this film. I can't imagine. So this is really just an awful film. It's she plays a woman by the name of Carla Dyson, who's a soon-to-be divorced diner waitress and a mother of 6-year-old Frankie, and she lives somewhere in Louisiana. Also Louisiana. And after Frankie gets scooped up by a pair of rednecks, Carla decides to put her minivan's pedal to the metal and chase after the kidnappers. And for the next hour or so, we watch her in close-up, Halle Berry in close-up after close-up, as Carla scowls and grunts and screams her way along the state's highways and byways, leading to the ultimate confrontation with these perps. It's a one-note movie. It's like Speed, but without the speed.
It hasn't gotten very good
No.
reviews.
And interestingly, she was supposed to be in Speed. She turned down the role that made Sandra Bullock famous. So she's got very bad, either a bad agent or bad taste in film scripts. I don't know. Most of the movie is just she's chasing after this other car on the highways, and they're causing vehicular mayhem in the process. And just horrible film. And to try, the director, to try to make this seem exciting, there's a couple times where he does this. He shows her speedometer going from 40 to 80. Ooh, wasn't that exciting? Like Call Me when it gets to 120. Right? Miles per hour, yeah, miles per hour. But like 80 miles per hour on an interstate. Ooh, that's really fast. And every once in a while, the kidnapper's car disappears, and then she manages to find it again. Like what? It's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous story.
Okay, so Kidnap, thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Now, mercifully, the film's only 95 minutes long. And I would say it would have worked if they shot it in real time. If you think, okay, you can do a kidnapping in 95 minutes, and I think then you'd really get some tenseness, some action going. But there's some insane, there's some insanely long sequences. Like the movie opens where she's looking at pictures of little Frankie as a baby, and she's going, ooh, ah, ooh, and this goes on for about 10 minutes. And you think, come on, cut that out. We don't need 10 minutes of her Googling over a baby. Now, very interesting, the home video version of this movie is 82 minutes long. So the distributor did cut 13 minutes out of the movie. So, this is a film, this is a really bad film that you just do not want to waste your money on.
Okay.
Shame.
Okay, so now we have Unlocked.
Unlocked.
Which is good?
I enjoyed it. It's not a great film. It's a lot of new films opening today. This is, if you like films, the Jason Bourne type films, or the Jack Ryan, or the Ethan Hunt films, Mission Impossible. This is, it's that genre film, but it stars a woman. Let me say it again. Woman. Very interesting. I'm just going back to the Golden Globes. I loved what Natalie Portman said. Where she was announcing the nominees for the Best Director, and she said, and the all male nominees for Best Director.
Yes, exactly. And then it was talked about female directors and how many there are, and
how
many are represented, and the discrepancy between the numbers. Yes.
Yeah, and you know what? In this past year, the top 3 grossing films were about women. They starred women, Wonder Woman and I forget what the other 2 were offhand. So the top 3 films starred women, and 2 of those 3 were directed by women, and yet none of those women, the 2 women directors, were not nominated. So, yeah, the Golden Globes has a long way to go to improve their record. Anyhow, so this film, Unlocked, stars Noomi Rapace. I had to look up how to pronounce her name. It's a Swedish name, Noomi Rapace, who people would know from the original The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo trilogy. Did you see that, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? I never saw it.
I watched one. I didn't finish
the Swedish version or the British/American version?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I hear the Swedish version's better.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay. So Unlocked stars Noomi Rapace. She plays a woman by the name of Alice Racine, who's a CIA interrogator who is on a break from the agency after a terror attack in Paris. that took place earlier, it happened on her watch, and she blames herself for it, that she didn't do enough to solve the case in time. So now she works as a caseworker at a social service agency in London while she clears her head. And one day she hears about a possible planned attack in London. And she immediately notifies her former colleague at Britain's MI6, Emily Knowles, played by Toni Collette, who looks a lot like Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics. You know, she's sporting this platinum blonde spiky do. And it turns out that what she heard was a red herring. However, right after that, Alice receives 2 phone calls that may or may not be connected. First, she's contacted by her old mentor, Eric Lash, played by Michael Douglas, who wants her to come back to the agency. And then she's contacted by the agency itself, who says they need her help with an interrogation. So she decides to do the interrogation, but while she's there, she realizes that the people she's trusting are not as they seem. And so goes the next the next hour or so, as she goes on this wild roller coaster ride to not only try to stop what is perceived to be a real threat against American interests in London, and also it's a biological threat, but also to find out whom she can trust and who she shouldn't be trusting. So, as I said, if you like Jason Bourne or Jack Ryan or Ethan Hunt type of films, this is a film that you might enjoy. You could do far worse than this film. That's why I say I enjoyed it. It's not a great film, but I enjoyed it. I have yet to figure out what the title Unlocked has to do with the movie. I don't. It's not about an unlocked gun or an unlocked door or an unlocked safe. I don't know what it has to do with anything. I think she was really good in this film. She apparently studied martial arts.
Her potential was unlocked.
Yeah, her potential. Well, unfortunately, her potential, she could do a hell of a lot better than this film, in my opinion. Apparently she does. She is a martial artist. She has studied martial arts, and she did a lot of her stunts. I heard that she broke her nose while making this film, and she didn't even realize it was broken until much later. Yeah, somebody, I guess they were doing a stunt, somebody hit her by mistake and broke her nose. So I did appreciate her work in this film, but the script is unnecessarily convoluted. It's sort of like if you're the kind of person who scratches their right ear with their left hand, this is a visual thing, puts your hand over your head and scratches. That's what this story is about. It's got so many twists and turns, and then at the end of it, you think, okay, you didn't need that twist, you didn't need that turn. There's a lot of stuff in there that you just don't need. And the reality is, if there wouldn't have been any of these twists and turns, this would have been a 20-minute movie. It's there's not a lot of script here. So because of that, there's all these twists and turns. So I think where this film really lost points for me was the script by Peter O'Brien. I've never heard of him before. He hasn't really done anything of note. But the film is directed by Michael Apted, who has done the Up series, the 7 Up, 14 Up, 21 Up, 20. You're not familiar? It's a whole series of documentaries. He started it, they've done 56 Up, so he started it more than 49 years ago, where he shot a documentary of 7-year-old kids, and then he went back 14 years later and interviewed them again, and 21, and he's done it now. Now these people are 56 plus. They're older than, because he did 56 a few years ago. And I guess if he's still alive, he'll do 63. So it's basically a sociological study of a bunch of people, and very, very interesting films. So he's the guy behind those films. He also did one of the James Bond films, The World Is Not Enough, which was not one of the best James Bond films out there.
Who did that star? James Bond?
Pierce Brosnan.
He didn't last long in that role.
No, he did a few. Yeah. So, to me, he wasn't as bad as this script. For what he got, for the script that he was given, I thought he was okay. Orlando Bloom's in it, and God knows, Orlando Bloom's another one who makes bad choices in acting, or maybe he's just not a good actor. I don't know. I mean, I loved him in Lord of the Rings, but here he plays some shady guy with a bad Cockney accent. and bad, bad, bad. John Malkovich is also in it, who basically, John Malkovich plays himself.
Always.
So he plays a CIA bureau chief playing John Malkovich, but everybody loves John Malkovich, so we say, okay, we can accept that. But there's one scene between Malkovich and Toni Collette which is very funny, and I have a feeling that was unscripted. That I think he put that in, and they said, okay, we're going to keep it.
Yeah.
It was very much him as opposed to the character that he was playing. So if you like John Malkovich, I don't think you'll be disappointed with this. So as I said, I think she is really good, and I think there's a possibility there will be a sequel. Certainly, they've left the door wide open for more adventures of Alice Racine. I think if they do make more films about her, they better get a better screenwriter than Peter O'Brien. So there is possibility that we'll see more of her. But certainly, this movie isn't as good as she is. As good as she is an actress, she could do much better than this, and I would like to see more films with her in it. So, if you've already seen The Disaster Artist in the Room and all the other good films out there, then go see this one. If not, don't see it. Unlocked, and don't waste your time on Kidnapped, or if you do and you don't like it, just remember, I told you not to see it. Hello, cousin Gloria, who's watching from Toronto, and she says I'm wearing a nice warm sweater. And that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Howard.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.